Hey guys, it's Jesse with Team SCG Hobby here today to bring you a Pauper League video, and we're going to be playing Burn. Here's my list. It's pretty standard in regards to the other Burn lists that are in Pauper. Notably, I'm not playing a Forgotten Cave. I just like that all my lands turn on Fire Blast, and we're rocking more Molten Rains just because the last league that I had played featured a ton of Tron. But other than that, the list is pretty standard. And just like that, we're going to get into some games here. We're going to start off this first game here with a pretty strong hand. Double Curse can be a little bit slow if their deck is more aggressive, but it enables the Needle Drop. We have a Lightning Bolt and a Fire Blast, so we're at least cycling and being able to consistently cast some other spells. So it seems like a relatively strong hand going into an unknown opponent. He ends up being on Affinity, so that feels pretty good because Burn feels pretty good against Affinity. I'm just going to start out casting a Chain Lightning, just get that early damage in. Bolt I like better at instant speed in case we have to pick off an Atog or something, but I'm just going to end up dropping this Curse of the Pierce Tart on turn 2 just to start getting the damage rolling from that. He's going to play a Frogmite, and he's going to then lead into a Forger, so that's a little bit difficult, but we do have a lot of damage in hand already, and drawing the Skewer is just even better. I have the option of trying to cast some other spells, but I'm going to go for the second Curse just because it tacks on additional damage, as well as turning on the Needle Drop for this turn. So he's going to attack me for 6. We have a Prophetic Prism coming in. Don't really care about that. Cantripping means that he's doing less to kill us, but he plays the Atog, so it seems like it might be bad for us, but we're going to cycle the Needle Drop, hit a land. We have 10 in hand already, and we draw the last Bolt. So just Bolt, sitting there trying to figure out what he can do, which is nothing. Cast Spectacle, cast Lightning Bolt, and then cast Fire Blast. And that's going to be pretty much the best way you could draw it up. I mean, that's a turn 4 win there. We're going to move to the sideboard now. You definitely want the Smash to Smithereens. Card's amazing in this matchup. And then I'm thinking about the Molten Rain, but it ends up just being too slow. The Flaring Pain's useless. And then I bring in the Martyr just because it can end up picking off a lot of the smaller guys, especially if they're unbuffed. But worst comes to worst, if the game they get an explosive start, you can hold your burn spells to really play an explosive Martyr to kill off their board. But we're going to submit the deck. We'll get into the next game. Another pretty strong hand, and we do have the Martyr, which is exactly what we want to see. Waiting for my opponent to decide what he's going to do. He leads up with a Chromatic Star. Not too bad for us. We draw a Thermo Alchemist, which is very good because it blocks a lot of the 2/2s very well, like Frogmite, and it forces them to try to do something with a Tog. But they play a Forger, which as of right now Thermo Alchemist can block. I am just going to play it because unless they Galv Blast it, they don't really have a ton of removal for it. He's going to play the Frogmite. The 4/4 can attack now. I won't block with Thermo Alchemist because I want to get that extra damage. And we always start out with a quick ping. I could end up trying to keep my spells for Martyr, but at this point, with all the burn in hand and the Thermo Alchemist, I'm just moving into just trying to kill my opponent. And the Thermo Alchemist adding damage, we don't want him to go away either. So continue to cast spells, tapping the Thermo Alchemist, and then I'm going to suspend the Rift Bolt. I don't tap the Thermo Alchemist because it could end up blocking the Frogmite, and I'm not casting a spell to untap the Alchemist. I wasn't sure what my opponent had since it was before combat, so I didn't end up blocking the Frogmite. But now this turn, we get to cast the Rift Bolt, and if you just look at our hand, I mean, this is just lethal. It's basically an easy win, the best way you could draw it up. Burn seems to have a favorable matchup against Affinity, so feeling pretty good about that, and a good way to start the league at 1-0. Starting into this next round in round 2, I have a pretty strong hand here. We end up with 3 1-drops and a Thermo Alchemist in addition to a Fire Blast to close out that last few damage that we might need. And my opponent ends up being on Stompy, which is just not a great matchup on our end. They have a lot of guys that we can't really attack into. They can attack through Thermo Alchemist, and they have a lot of fight effects like the Swipe and Epic Confrontation out of the board. So he starts out with a Burning Tree Emissary into Nest Invader. really bad into my G2 Lava Runner that I play turn 1. So we just play a Thermo Alchemist hoping to block. He starts out with a Savage Swipe to trade off Thermo Alchemist with his guy and leads with another one, killing off my whole board, hitting me for 8. So in a really poor position right now. I just end up playing another Thermo Alchemist. I contemplate maybe killing one of his guys, but I know that I can block. But he ends up having the third Savage Swipe. So this is really bad for what we're doing at this point. I'm just going to try to save my guy by Fire Blasting the thing that's getting Savage Swiped. He ends up putting Hunger of the Howl Pack on his guy, and he just basically has it all. Can't really do anything about that. So going into the sideboard, Keldor Marauders you definitely want. They're 3/3, so they're bigger than most of their stuff unless it goes to fight. And they're excellent blockers. I also take out the Needle Drops. Not very good in this matchup. So we're going to end up mulliganing that hand. This one is a 3-lander, but have some pretty powerful things. We did bring in Firebrand Archers just because they can end up trading if we absolutely need them to. They threaten to kind of stall out the board. Leads with a Nettle Sentinel. I'm going to play the Firebrand Archer just because if I'm anticipating a fight effect, which I wanted to get rid of it instead of the 0-3 because 0-3 blocks better. He is, of course, going to Savage Swipe. And then I end up playing the Thermo Alchemist. Hand's getting kind of slow at this point because we just have a lot of Rift Bolts not able to cast. He's going to go Burning Tree Emissary, add some mana, and then Sawney Ledgewalker. So his board's not as explosive as it was the prior game, but still, once again, missing a land. So gonna deal 1 to him, play a Chain Lightning on the Nettle Sentinel just to try to keep the board a little bit clear. And then we're going to end up suspending one of these Rift Bolts. We're just going to try to set up the next couple turns. We don't really want to be clearing up his board, especially on the mulligan. We're just down cards. But then he Savage Swipes again. You know, they say they come in packs. Last game they had triples. This one they was replaced by a Rancor. So taking a ton of damage once again. Don't really have an answer. Don't have the Martyr or anything to try to clear the board. So Rift Bolt at this point, I'm trying to figure out if it's worth going on border to the face, so I'm just going to end up targeting it face, end up drawing another Rift Bolt. So I'm going to suspend these. Hopefully we end up drawing some more damage. If we end up drawing, my thought process was if we end up drawing Fire Blast, we ended up killing them, but the issue with that is I can't actually cast this Rift Bolt. I would have to just suspend it. So not really a good way to come back from this game. I just send these Rift Bolts upstairs, draw the bolt, realize that there's nothing I can do, and that's all we can do. Now we're moving into round 3. What my opponent ends up being on is Affinity. Of course, I don't know this at the time, but I'm looking at this hand, 3 lands, Bolt, Rift Bolt, Searing Blaze, Fire Blast, feeling pretty good about what I have. The Searing Blaze hasn't really been able to come up in any other matches, oddly enough, but would have been good in all of them, and especially good here against Affinity as long as you can nab something before it's a 4/4. But with the other cards, we have a lot of potential damage, already 13 damage in hand, and just need a few more off the top. He leads the game off with a Great Furnace. You can see I'm getting kind of antsy because I'm trying to figure out what's taking him so long. But regardless, finally passes the turn. Draw a second Searing Blaze, so I just suspend the Rift Bolt just because I'm not sure if he's going to be on one of the Monarch builds or if he's on Affinity. See the Tree of Tails and then see this guy here. So I feel really good about him only having the 2 artifact lands. Send this upstairs, play a land. We're going to end up Searing Blazing away his board. And drawing a creature off the top feels good too. As long as he doesn't have something that can block it and kill it, like a Forger, you know, we're feeling good. But he ends up not doing anything, so I end up just playing this Lava Runner. I'm going to hold back my land just because I don't have a 4th one to enable this Searing Blaze. He ends up using a Gallblast on it, so that feels pretty good from my view. He ends up playing a Retriever, so although I can't kill it with the Searing Blaze, it does give me a target, so that's just potential damage there. So we're going to play land. Just trying to figure out some math here. We go Searing Blaze that, Needle Drop your face, draw another Fire Blast. So at this point, unless he can kill me or gain some life, we're just going to be able to Fire Blast Bolt him next turn. Even drawing another Mountain lets us Fire Blast him again. He's going to cycle a Prophetic Prism, play every Mirror Retriever in his deck, almost, cast a Thoughtcast. Just literally storming off here, but it ends up not mattering because we do have the kill in hand here. So he passes completely tapped out. We play the land, didn't do the rub-ins of double Fire Blast, and we're just able to kill him. So that felt like a pretty good win there. Basically the same sideboard that I did first game. I took out the Lava Runners just because it's a little bit difficult for me to attack into a lot of the 4/4s. You want to bring in those Smash to Smithereens. Absolutely great in this matchup. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to resolve our mulligans. And basically any hand that I'm looking for here is going to contain Searing Blaze, Smash to Smithereens, you know, really anything that can keep the board under control and also deal damage. So we look at the starting hand. It's a little weak, so we're going to mulligan, end up finding a really strong hand with a Smash to Smithereens. My opponent is going to lead off with a Seat of the Synod, I believe, and he's going to play Springleaf Drum. So 2 targets for my Smash, so feeling good about that. Sometimes you want to save it for a Mirror Retriever if you can. So I'm just going to play a land, suspend a Rift Bolt, and then pass the turn. So my hand's a little damage light, but that's okay. My opponent's just going to pass the turn, plays no land, and then this is like the most beautiful play you could make right here. I'm just going to send this Rift Bolt upstairs, play my land, and we're going to Smash the Smithereens his only land, and he's done having fun. Now we're going into round 4. I look and I keep this hand here. It's pretty strong. It sets up for a turn 2 G2 Lava Runner after turn 1 Rift Bolt. Opponent ends up being on Stompy, which is the second time we've played against it in this league. Leads with the Nettle Sentinel. Now I have the Rift Bolt here. I target it upstairs, and we have a few different options here. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm kind of tanking on if I want to kill off this Nettle Sentinel or if I want to just send damage upstairs. The G2 Lava Runner makes it kind of awkward with what's going on. I'm going to end up just Chain Lightning his face. We have to wait till he does this thing. And I play the G2 Lava Runner, and I just end up offering a trade on this, which he ends up doing. I tanked for a little bit deciding on if I wanted to attack there or not, but I ended up doing it. He did end up trading. Now, still feeling pretty good because he is at 8, and we do end up having Bolt in hand. So we really only need to draw 5 damage off the top, and we're still at 20, so this should feel pretty good. So he's trying to figure out his turn here. A lot of good draws here include Fire Blast. Really any of the 1 damage burn spells are good. He's going to swing in and hit me for a ton here. So I play a G2 Lava Runner, and I end up attacking. Well, sorry, I end up tanking about attacking because I'm not sure what he's going to end up doing. He does end up trading, so once again, feeling not too bad about that because he is only end up hitting me for 5. Like I said, we have a lot of live draws here, and still nothing to really show for it. So he ends up flooding the board. These Nested Vaders are crazy. I say, okay, I can draw Fire Blast off the top here and feel good. I end up playing a land, which in hindsight could have been a problem with a Searing Blaze off the top if he had any way to gain life. He's going to attack me. I have to bolt one of his guys, and he just Vines of Vastwoods me. So feels pretty bad. I actually contemplate here after this game, thinking about Curse of the Pierced Heart. This is the 4th game of the league, and I realized that against all of these aggressive decks, I had not boarded it out yet. So I may have misplayed in that aspect of not boarding out Curse of the Pierced Heart enough. But it's just a consistent source of damage, and sometimes that's what you need. They're not really prone to bring in enchantment removal, so you're not worried about getting it removed. But it is kind of an awkward situation to be in whenever you might just need the last few points of damage and you draw a 2-mana deal 1. So, but we end up sideboarding pretty much the standard same. You know, you're going to bring in the Martyr, and you're going to bring in Keldon Marauders because they're excellent at blocking. But, you know, Nothing really too crazy different about the sideboard from round 2 into round 4. But we get the game to start. I go on the play, and I have a really awkward hand here. I have to mulligan. Even more awkward hand after this one. I have to mulligan. So we're down to 5. This hand is playable. It's just unfortunate because we are really low on gas. I end up bottoming the Fire Blast. And then I contemplate if the Firebrand Archer or the Keldon Marauders is worth it. I end up bottoming the Marauders because I'm hoping that the Archer doesn't die in a fight effect. But now we're looking at it here. We kill his guy with a Searing Blaze, mainly because Searing Blaze is going to lose all value unless we draw more lands. He ends up putting a couple guys on board. Don't really have a very good play here, so I'm going to end up playing the Firebrand Archer to hopefully block and or get some chip damage in. My opponent ends up having a fight effect. They always do. And he goes to combat, hits me for 6. So end up taking a lot there. He plays a Vault Scourge. So Vault Scourge is very threatening if he can get a Rancor or some other pump on it. I end up just bolting it here, and then I'm going to hold this other bolt up just in case something ends up happening. But he goes, attacks, hits me for 4. I go down to 10. Not feeling very good about this game. He plays a River Boa, which I am very concerned of why that's in his deck game too. I could be wrong. And still miss on a land drop. But we have a Firebrand Archer again. Kind of contemplating what the line is here. I end up playing the Firebrand Archer. There is a world where I could go Lightning Bolt into Skewer to potentially go for a Fire Blast. He ends up casting Weather the Storm, goes to 18, and at this point, not a whole lot I can do to win this game, especially when he has another fight effect. Kills off my board, swings in, and I go down to 3. So at this point, might as well just bolt myself. There's the Keldon Marauders, and we're out of this one. And now for the final match, really hoping that it's not against Affinity or Stompy. I keep a very strong hand, able to cast everything in a timely fashion. See a blue land, great start, and a Delver. So we're feeling great at the fact that we're not playing against either one of those decks. We play a Thermo Alchemist to get some early chip damage in. Not sure if it's mono blue, blue red, or blue black yet. We see a Terramorphic Expanse that's going to lead us to believe he's at least 2 color, and he ends up being blue black. He's going to do the turn 2 Snuff Out, so that doesn't feel too bad because he's exchanging the 4 damage to kill off our Thermo Alchemist, which right now in hand, he's really only going to get 4 damage out so far. So pretty even exchange if you ask me. I'm going to curse him while he's tapped out. Blue-black doesn't have really any way to deal with curse in the main. So we're going to be able to get this chip damage in. So we deal 3 to him, get the curse in. His Delver doesn't flip. Great news for us. And then he's going to play an Augur. He gets a Suffocating Fumes to his hand. That feels good for us because it doesn't have any targets in the main. So we're going to end up casting Bolt, Chain Lightning, Skewer, and then finish it off with a Fire Blast. So textbook, the best thing that we can, start out with there. Just basically killing him super early. So we're going to end up boarding in some of the Keldon Marauders is very resilient to removal. It's also a big body, can attack into Augur, can potentially not let a Insectile Aberration block. I keep boarding out these needle drops. They're kind of flex cards in my opinion whenever I need cards to cut. So, I feel kind of good about that. We boarded an Electrickeries just to be able to kill off early Delvers. And then going in, we're going to start this game too. Now, I have this hand here. I have a lot of ways to deal damage with one land. It is a very risky keep, and I keep it, and I end up drawing the second Keldon Marauders, which of course costs 2 mana. But the Delver ends up flipping. They fetch with their Terramorphic Expanse, finding the swamp. So they're set up to be able to cast a good bit of their spells. Have the Rift Bolt. Going to send the Rift Bolt. I'm contemplating at the Aberration or the Face. I think given what's in my hand, I want to go Face and never didn't have it. Boom. Keldon Marauders, save targets, go into the Face. So feeling extra good now that we've hit the second land and hoping to squeeze out the 3-2. And he's going to cast down the Keldon Marauders, which not a bad exchange. Hopefully we wanted to get a second attack out of it. But like I said, our hand is very, very much going to be putting in the damage on him. So we're going to suspend both Rift Bolts, allowing us to potentially cast at least 4 burn spells next turn, really forcing through counter spells. He's going to attack. We're going to take these Rift Bolts, and they're going straight up to the attic, and going to take them down to 9. Now, we have potential lethal just with what we have here. He goes to counterspell one of the Rift Bolts. So I play the Kelter Marauder, take him down to 11. He's going to Brainstorm. The Searing Blaze feels kind of bad because I didn't have another land. It's excellent if we can kill off this Insectile Aberration, but really missing out on the extra land to do so. He's Brainstorms here, trying to figure out what exactly he's putting back. Ends up with 4 cards in hand, so most likely a good bit are counter spells, but as long as we could try to force damage through, we're feeling good. But what he's going to end up doing here, he's going to cast a Gurmag Angler. Big boy, swings in for 3. I go down to 8. Now, Vanishing Counter removes, and we draw the Curse. And this is another time where I think Curse maybe just isn't good enough for this matchup, but over time it can be a lot of damage coming through. A land there is very good for us, but we end up not having it. So I'm going to attack in, which what this allows me to do is to try to kill off the Gurmag, which ends up happening. And once again, feeling pretty good about circumstances, because all we really need is a land, another burn spell, really just anything to try to force through this last bit of damage. But he's going to attack me, take me to 5. I'm going to bolt, and he ends up having the Dispel. So, you know, like I said, a lot of counter spells, and now we're at a point where unfortunately these 2 mana cards I'm not able to close out the last bit of damage with. So he's at 7. We have the Fire Blast. A land is great here. A bolt is great here, but we're just really missing on that last bit of damage. But he attacks for 3. And we draw the Lava Runner, which can attack into the 1/3. So feels kind of bad, but you know, what can you do? You had a bad bit of variance. We're going to go into game 3, hopefully be able to squeeze out this last win here, and then get that nice sweet 3-2. So now we're in the final game, game 3 of round 5. Look at my starting hand, very excellent. We do have a Curse. And we have some real strong damage here. But we're going to start out, play land, just play this Lava Spike, just get that early damage in. Pass, we play land, going to try to play this Curse. He ends up having Blue Blast for it, so that feels pretty bad. Feels like that's kind of cheating, but what can you do? So then he's going to set up his turn here with a land, and I make a misplay here. And you can see me pause because I don't have another land for the Searing Blaze currently, and there are no targets for it. Didn't really have a reason to play it, and now we have to hopefully draw one off the top whenever he ends up playing a guy. So after I tank a little bit, bolt his face, cast a Skewer with Spectacle. He's down to 11. Now, couple good things can happen here. He can play a guy that we could draw a land into Searing Blaze, and then all we need is a second Fire Blast, and we are just in a great position. But he's once again going to cycle, looking for another island, going to play an Augur. So this is where it feels kind of bad because we have access to killing the Augur with the Searing Blaze, and now I can attack with this. He blocks, and then I use my Searing Blaze on this guy. If that ends up not happening, he ends up being at 6, so we end up being able to Fire Blast his face and then Skewer in this position, and it would be lethal, but he does have another Blue Elemental Blast. So in the end, difficult to say. Realistically, he's probably at 3 at this point, but he plays a Gurmag, attacks with Delver, draw another land, so once again would not be able to kill him there. Delver flips, revealing Preordain, casts said Preordain, and like I said, just to reiterate, he would be at 3 at this point. We end up drawing another land, so not really missing a whole lot here, by that misplay, luckily. But he's going to end up brainstorming, draws a couple cards, puts a couple back, attacks me again. We go to 3, draw Keldon Marauders, doesn't end up mattering because he has the counter spell. So that concludes our league. Unfortunately, went 2 and 3. The losses ended up being to Stompy twice and that Blue-Black Delver, where we had some really bad luck closing out those games. Surprisingly enough, the league was very, very different from the last time I played it. Played a ton of Tron for my last league, and this one we just ended up having a large amount of more aggressive linear decks like Affinity and Stompy. Affinity feels really good for burn. Stompy is just a nightmare, but I mean, how can you beat 3 Savage Swipes with that one guy? I mean, honestly. So does this just show the diversity of Pauper? Most likely. Seems like a lot of people just want to do whatever they want to do, and it can be viable, at least for tier 1 to 2.5 type strategies. But regardless, burn felt strong, except when the mulligans really hit. I still recommend the deck going forward, and hopefully we can run it back some other time, potentially get that 5-0. But thanks for stopping by the video, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow the socials in the description, and we'll see you around next time.